Well, I mean, I've got to apologise for the cliché, but this does have a slight feel of deck chairs on the Titanic. He did have to replace his party chairman, and I think there's some rumours that he's perhaps planning to put Grant Shapps in that role and then do some kind of restructuring of the Department of Business, where Grant Shapps is currently the Secretary of State. I think the serious point here is that Rishi Sunak's cabinet choices have been really problematic since the start of his premiership. You know, we had Gavin Williamson having to resign for the third time. We had Suella Braverman, who had to quit Liz Truss's cabinet. Still question marks over Dominic Raab. And it does make you think, you know, why has he made such poor choices?
Would Mr Raab's position, would he be asked to step down while this investigation goes on into him?
I'm not sure. I mean, Rishi Sunak's been keen to stress that he wants to go through the correct process. There's an independent inquiry happening. Might he give him a sort of demotion? We don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. You'd think perhaps he might delay a reshuffle until the results of that, because, you know, if the findings are that he broke the ministerial code, he will have to get rid of him, because that's the precedent that's now being set by Nadhim Zahawi, and then it will be more question marks about his cabinet. And knowing what we do about Rishi Sunak, I wouldn't be surprised if he was trying to get ahead of the curve on this. But interesting, the party chairman role, I mean, I read in some of the papers that Kemi Badenoch was being touted as a possible suggestion. Would that be a good move from Rishi Sunak, or would it be a risky one, given that that role very much involves going up and down the country, talking to Conservative groups, and perhaps would help shore her up for any future role in a senior position, perhaps future PM?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, this is going to be a really crucial role, especially in the run-up to the election, because whoever's party chairman needs to be in charge of strategy for the election. They need to be doing candidate selection, and especially need to be looking at those red wall seats, which are going to be particularly vulnerable. So whoever you put in there, you need someone who's going to be a really good strategist, but also someone who's going to be popular with members. So Kemi Badenoch would be an interesting choice. Another figure who's being talked about is perhaps Penny Mordaunt. She's also, you know, quite relatively popular with members. But as you say, Rishi Sunak's also got to think about, you know, the internal politics and the risks to his own position.
And also, you talked a little bit about the restructuring of some departments. A new department could be created, an energy department, because obviously the huge amount of money that the government's spending on helping people with bills, and obviously the future challenges of trying to get a bit more energy security. Do you think that's a wise step from the PM?
Well, I think having business and energy lumped together in the same department was always a strange move, but then separating them out at this point, when, you know, the country's got so many problems, we kind of just want the government to be getting on with governing and not being distracted by this personality politics, by the drama of a reshuffle, or by an internal restructuring and moving people about who have got experience in their departments.
I've got to ask you about Liz Truss before we move on. Do you think, I mean, she was doing the rounds doing a round, talking to Spectator TV yesterday evening. Could she be an appointment as party chairman?
I would be surprised. I don't think she's been particularly helpful to Rishi Sunak with her interventions. I think she's kind of sowing further divisions within the party. And, you know, it's amazing how kind of unself-aware she appears to be. You know, I think a lot of her analysis of the problems facing the country was correct, but, you know, she was clearly the wrong person to head up and tackle those problems.